No, but did you learn any fascinating facts about the fact that anybody
What'd you
might
do?
support it?
We're ready, Frank.
You had it on the wrong side.
Tobin was very interested in my comments.
tried
but I
both
thought I'd
sides,
pass
Patty.
it now.
You did what you thought.
We'll call this meeting to order. Parker,
Yeah?
Chai,
Yeah.
Froney,
Here.
Jokes,
Here.
Sturgill,
Here.
Angvick,
Yeah.
Parsons,
Here.
Sheffield,
Here.
Reed here. Holmes is in Halibut Cove, and Mr. Fisher's not present. Unable to reach Mr. Fisher this morning.
Is that right?
Communicado.
Mr. Garnett has been reviewing the proposal that we requested from Joe regarding a salary commission. And you have before you Joe's memorandum. I didn't feel that it was right for us to do it on a one-by-one basis. This is the last minute deal, and it might, we wouldn't all know what was going on, and it felt better, seeing this had never been before anybody publicly, that we do it as a group, or not do it as a group. So, Joe,
Well, it's so lucid that it's self-explanatory. But I'll ask,
You go to that restaurant last night?
Are you kidding?
I'll ask Rick to comment because I wanted him to review it from a different perspective. You want to?
Sure. Well, Joe, Mr. Chairman, legally, I don't think there's any big problem with it. What we were discussing mostly this morning had to do with the application of initiative and referendum to this thing and exactly how that would work mechanically. I think I would suggest putting at the end of Joe's section C, 508C on the second page, a sentence to the effect that a decision by the commission is subject to initiative and referendum in the same manner as an ordinance. And then we would strike the references in 403 and 501 to or by initiative and referendum.
Did that allow them to stay in
Yeah, now that's the thing.
problem, I think.
That's the other aspect of it is, of course, the way we have the referendum provision set up, filing of a petition stays the action. So,
Oh, well, they would still get their pay under the previous.
yeah, and they would have to be decided in 75 days.
That's right, okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Harlan,
Joe, was there a special reason on the initiative and referendum? All things would be subject to that, and I wondered at the putting it
The
in
initiative
there.
and referendum, you see, applies to ordinances. And what I thought about this overnight, that if you just say that the compensation is fixed by the commission, and if arguably the commission runs wild, it's not accountable to anybody. And you have to have, I think, an initiative and referendum to keep popular control.
Normally, initiative and referendum apply only to ordinances or resolutions, so we need to liken it to such a thing in order to make sure.
I think that's a good safeguard, Joe.
Mr. Chairman, there was one other question. Then, this is apart from the normal budgetary process, and you have out here an independent group setting these figures that are going to impact the budget, and somehow we don't seem to be tying that into it has to be funded to the same method of appropriation.
Their action better be dated previous to the setting of the new year's
Well,
budget.
somehow, I wonder if that creates a problem.
Or when you say when they review the thing annually, you could set a time of the year when they have to do it.
It somehow needs to be
related to the
included,
budget rather than
needs
a
to
time
be
of the year.
included in them and funded by the,
must be for
the
30
decision.
days.
Well, what would be a good date? Do we say,
It would be before the final action on the municipality's
30 days before the final.
not
act.
later than,
The final decision should
not
be
later
made.
than December 1 or something like that?
Well, wait, rather than set, now you
Are they
might,
setting
you,
for the
you,
school
you
board or just the
No,
assembly
arranged
and
it
the
to
mayor?
set different times, to see if it'd be possible that you change this fiscal
It
year.
should be for the,
See?
Well,
it
but
should
you're not amending that
it should be
section.
both, shouldn't it?
There's no section to amend. There's nothing said in the charter that I found on compensation of the school board.
No, I called the school board about that, and I'm trying to think who, I spoke to somebody there, and just to find out whether the assembly had any part in setting the school board's compensation.
Well, I think all
Present.
elected officials ought to come under this.
Well, that's what it states.
Well, they said that the assembly now has nothing to do with the school board's payments of any sort,
They
salary.
established their own.
Yeah.
Set their own.
I mean, the
Now, what do you
school board
say?
The best,
members? Yes.
Jane, you have it.
yeah, we don't address compensation to any members of boards or commissions any place in
Oh, you say,
the charter. Is that correct?
Just elected officials.
Assembly, yeah.
all right, but under this wording,
That's appropriate.
it would set the school
Yes.
district's
Yes,
salary.
because that's an elected
That's
official.
right. Now,
That's good.
Yeah, it
That
may
really
give,
is.
Mr. Chairman, it may give them,
That this thing would affect the school board officials as well.
I feel the school board has been the badminton bird over the years because they were in a position much like we were in having to set their own and consequently set nothing.
Yeah, which is not fair.
Right.
And I've argued that for years and felt that what they have come up with in terms of letting them recognize force them.
at least not the measures.
Jane?
The
Oh,
term
yeah, I
in
did too.
508C is the decision the commission shall establish. That implies to me this is not an advisory board, this in fact is the commission who
That's right.
does it completely. And does the assembly have to adopt by ordinance?
No, not under this draft. There was
No.
a suggestion that that be done, but it's handled by saying that if their decisions are subject to referendum and initiative. It's
Execute.
You had some wording there that we were going to, that
What do you
you
call
put
it?
in after, as part of C, didn't you?
That was just about the referendum and initiative.
Yeah.
Patty, you got that?
I missed that one.
Okay, well, for
Let's get the wording again for that you were going.
what I was going to suggest as far as initiative and referendum was a new sentence under C, right at the end of C, which would say a decision of the commission is subject to initiative and referendum in the same manner as an ordinance.
And that would cause a change.
Then we strike, yeah, the or by initiative and referendum in 403 and 501.
403.
Jane, pass me that pencil, will you please? Thank you.
The decision's been modified or amended except by the commission or by initiative or referendum.
Okay, Mr. Chairman?
That's in part of C.
Yeah, that's right. No.
Oh, and then C, yeah.
I wonder if you need that sentence at all.
All right, does
You don't
this,
need it. You don't need it at all.
does this nullify the need for that statement as to elected officials' salaries in the,
No.
no, it doesn't.
That's
Because
another
it might
little
set
deal.
other jobs.
Mr. Chairman, did you make a change as a result of what Lisa's point there?
The second sentence in C comes out.
You did delete that.
The decisions may not be modified.
Yeah.
Now, the only other question I have is whether the term "to do business with," or up in B where we say that no member shall be employed or do business with, do we mean that to apply to every type of conceivable fiscal relation to the municipality?
This one bothers me.
It bothers me, and I was just thinking we always use, let's use Frank for an example. If the bank does business, which all of the banks do, would this bar him from
Service.
serving? in a way, it's,
What you gotta do, strike it?
well, I just wonder, it's more stringent under your conflict of interest. You have, as long as you identify the interest.
Yeah, they do have to.
Okay, we can delete or do that.
Well, I think we ought to put something in there.
Or hold office under, or other office.
But what if one of the members of the assembly feels that maybe they should be on this board?
Well,
Well, no member of the commission shall be employed by the municipality,
Nor hold elected office.
nor shall he hold elective office while during his term within 2 years thereafter. He can't. He's somebody that can't serve.
But you're gonna leave that in,
Leave
what
it.
you just said? Yeah.
Well, you're gonna leave that in.
Oh,
Then
right.
I would suggest that if you're gonna
Take
leave
out
it,
or do business with.
Yeah.
say that again?
How does it read now?
Just take out or do business with.
Also, this question about during the term is a small matter. It's the same thing we had about the.
do we want to be more restrictive here than we were elsewhere and regarding period of time? You say 2 years here, and I think you're 1 year in the other areas, aren't we?
Yeah.
I think we're 1 year in the others.
Before you get a job.
What are you at?
The last sentence,
Talking to.
B and B. We want to change that 2 years to 1.
Well, even if it was
think?
2
One
years,
year.
and they
We've got one for the other thing.
Yeah.
1 year's
on
fine.
salaries, they'd
One-
still be.
Make-
Let's be consistent, make it 1 year.
Make it 1 year.
Yeah, you want to do away with the do business with, don't you?
Yeah, take that out.
Well, I wonder if it needs some kind of a bar, but there's all kinds of relationships and
Well, your conflict of interest though would cover
I
that,
think
wouldn't it?
I've satisfied the
I do
disclosure.
business with them every day. I pay their guys.
but are they
insurance, so I-
subject to disclosure?
The members
Yeah,
of these
there's
commissions
a-
should be subject to
There
disclosure.
is a provision that the checkmate conflict of interest, this provision is 1703, including provisions for public disclosure of substantial financial interests of assemblymen, school board members, and members of regulatory, appellate, and quasi-judicial boards.
Okay, there's no problem then. I think that does it, that puts them in the same position as a assembly
Then,
person.
then it's going to read, B would read, no member of the commission shall be employed by the municipality during the term for which he is appointed,
Yes.
nor shall he hold elective municipal office during his term or within 1 year thereafter.
That's right.
I'm still bothered by that budget process. Did you see any way this can be brought into the system?
No.
Only if they're required to make a decision that they can't review the salaries more than once a year. Now, if we said that they shall
Shall
render,
review.
they shall review and make a decision as to whether salaries should be changed, not later than X date.
Each
That
year.
would- Yeah, December 1 or whatever it would be to allow.
Before the budget process is completed.
Well, you've got a fiscal year for the school.
Yeah.
Different day.
All right, you'd probably have to couch it generally then
In
in terms
terms of the,
of
within
not
the
later
budget.
than 30
Well,
days before the end of the fiscal
You
year.
could say that the decision takes effect at the start of the fiscal year following its submission to the clerk, instead of 30 days.
Well, I think that the real problem is that the municipality's budget is printed up after their decisions in December, and the school board's budget is printed up after their decisions in May. So you either have to choose to have this done by about the 1st of December to get it into that budget, or you have to wait till for the following year, or it's going to be printed wrong in one or the other budgets.
Mr. Chairman, I'm wondering how much effect really all the salaries lumped together are going to have on the budget, if it's worth even hassling about.
Well, the only thing is, these people
They're public.
have no right to set any mill levies or anything for the, it seems to me it just needs to be integrated into the budgetary process. They only recommend, and then still the ultimate is there as to the
Well,
funding.
somebody shall render decision with
No,
respect
they more than recommend.
Yeah.
They're setting.
not later than 60
That's
days.
true, but
expired.
they cannot set a mill levy. It has to be integrated into that
Now,
budget.
are you implying that if the elected officials who control the budget do not like what this commission has done, they can then not fund it?
Mr. Garnett has some language on
Good,
it.
good. Let's-
Well, we're just starting here. We have in D, the statement that they have to review salaries at least every 2 years, but can't do it more than once a year. So I think we could put another sentence after that sentence and say, the commission shall render its decision with respect to salaries for the next fiscal year not later than,
Respect.
I'm trying to figure out how to accommodate the school board in 60 days, say, before the end of the fiscal year.
30 days would be
30,
sufficient.
all right.
Well, yeah.
Fiscal year of what?
Well, that's the rub. I mean,
The municipality's fiscal year, I think, would be more appropriate. But
they could review, it's not that much problem in having a little out of phaseness.
I couldn't see a little problem there.
Okay.
Shall render
Of the municipality, I think, for consensus,
to the end of the
before the end of the,
fiscal year of the municipality.
I think
Of
60
each
would
fiscal
give it
year.
more leeway, Mary.
I-
It would
yeah.
be one thing they'd have to juggle at the last minute along with
the
everything.
current fiscal year.
There's no harm in having 60 and no real problem.
And for,
Well, let's see, if you back up to November, that means that they are holding their hearings during the time that they're doing the running for office.
November?
Yeah, but I mean, for the commission to come to their decision in November, they're going to have their public hearings in relation to it back up before this.
Good point.
I think it's the wrong time.
Well, you could cut her to 45 or something.
I think it's the wrong timing that you're proposing.
See, I don't
30
see
means
one.
they'd have to be ready by
This just
December
says
because
how long
of
this
more hearings in November.
30 days after submission. Ah,
See, that would be changed to on the, at the
Yeah.
start of the next fiscal year after your submission.
yes, right.
Everything.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay,
Jane, was there-
wait. There's one other change you have to make, which is,
Wait.
the
you're still writing.
number
me,
s-
Joe.
on C, the last sentence should read, a decision of the commission takes effect at the start of the next fiscal year following its submission to the clerk.
Or following its decision. Wait, okay.
Of the next fiscal year.
Start of the next fiscal
That's,
year.
that's okay.
This
After-
is-
after
the last
submission to the
sentence is
clerk
C.
by the commission.
Yes.
Once more.
A decision of the commission takes effect at the start of the next fiscal year after its submission to the clerk by the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to suggest that it take effect at the start of the municipal's fiscal year so that both the school board and the assembly take effect at the same time.
Yeah, well, okay, what we say, maybe we better back up now.
All right.
The new sentence on D says that the commission shall render its decision not later than 30 days before the end of the fiscal year of the municipality. And then trying to be consistent with that, we go up to the last sentence in C, and we say that the decision of the commission takes effect at the beginning of the next fiscal year after submission to the clerk. But we don't,
Well, you better make it the municipality's fiscal year to make no question.
we don't refer to submission to the clerk anywhere else.
Decision of the commission is subject to initiate a referendum in the same manner as normal.
This ties in fairly well with the
What did you
transition.
find me decide to cut
Well,
in that at the start of the next fiscal year?
How are we doing?
At the
Why
start of
don't
the
we say at the start of the
municipality?
next, well, let's don't worry about the clerk right now, is that right? Let's just say it takes effect at the beginning of, at the start of the next fiscal year of the municipality.
Okay, still within, Roderick says yes.
God love you. You were last night drinking Mark. Excuse me.
How about the union thing? I said,
Took care of it.
no problem.
Hooray for your temerity.
satisfied with it. They said, what do you mean? I said, Joe Josephson did a tremendous job on that, and there's no problem. Everybody's happy.
What did you say? Nobody's happy?
Everybody's happy.
I think we're gonna have to.
Oh, boy.
You know,
And
I
I
think
just know you will be too.
Mhm.
That was a positive statement.
I think we ought to sign him up for all of our public statements.
All right.
Don't run for office again, Joe.
Okay.
Okay.
You had a reporter
Want
quiz
to
for
review
that.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman,
All right.
could we move for approval section by section, or
Yeah,
are we
yeah,
ready
let's
for
do
that?
that.
Okay, it's working
I
back
have
and
a
forth.
Jane
question
has a
first.
question.
Let's get with it.
I assume you guys talked about yesterday the fact that this is new and the public hasn't had anything, doesn't know anything about this one.
I haven't told you yet.
They'll love
The
it.
rest of my conversation last night.
Yeah.
Oh, dear
Go ahead.
God,
Hurry
yeah.
up, finish
Could
it.
we have a recap on last
Hurry up and
night's
finish it.
madcap over
No,
here?
I'm just gonna kid Jane and say I broke the story last night. I couldn't wait till the day. No, I didn't say that.
I want to say that last night Parsons, Bill and myself had some real concern, but mostly because we were terribly exhausted, and the idea of a new and complex thing, caused us great concern. And I don't know that that concern
I
is
want to
completely
tell you
abated.
how much I appreciate you and Joe being here when you're both leaving town.
Right, we're
An hour
here,
or so.
and
go.
I'm nervous.
Let's go. You go.
Okay. 403. I move that 403 be revised to read, the compensation of assemblymen shall be fixed by the Commission on Salaries and Emoluments, period.
Second.
Can we change the word emoluments?
No,
No, it's a beautiful.
it's a nice word.
It's a nice big word that we'll have to
It
look
goes
at.
down in time with
At least I know a new word.
Any
now.
discussion? All those in favor?
Question.
Aye.
Aye. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed?
Next,
The emolument.
next motion.
501,
You're gonna like it. Okay.
Go, Joe, go.
move that 501E be amended to read, the compensation of the mayor shall be fixed by the Commission on Salaries and Emoluments and may not be reduced during his term of office without his consent, except by the Commission's initial decision rendered pursuant to Section 1915 of this charter.
That doesn't
Period.
mean great.
what is 1915?
That's the transitional,
That's the new transitional article that
Well,
you
it's
just,
going back to
that
this
you
page.
just,
I wonder, if we have to say that if we spell out in the transition, it's just our
I
general
think-
style thing about referring to transitional things in the body of the charter.
I think that you can,
well, you have to show them that you're not
Joe
blocking.
moved.
No, wait a minute. Now, when we talk about terms of office, for instance, we say the term of an assemblyman is 3 years, period, in the body. But then in the transition, we say, but the first term is 2 years or 1 year. I think we could do that here and say,
Shall be
it
fixed.
can't be reduced without his consent,
period.
but in the transition, however, the first decision shall be made within 30 days and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, are you going to say in the transition that it can be lower than the one set? Okay.
So you will revise that one?
Except-
Okay.
Stylistic.
Add a period after consent.
and eliminate.
What is it gonna read?
Would you read?
The compensation of the mayor shall be fixed by the Commission on Salaries and Emoluments and may not be reduced during his term of office without his consent. Period? Period.
Moved by Joe,
And then the balance is picked up in the
Second.
transition.
second by Jim.
Okay, question.
Is questions called? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So ordered.
Do you have other language?
I don't think we have anything to add right there. It's okay.
Shoot. 508. There is created by this charter a Commission on Salaries and Emoluments of Elected Officials. The commission is composed of 5 members appointed for terms of 4 years. The commission shall be composed of at least 1 business executive, 1 officer of the League of Women Voters or other nonpartisan voters organization, 1 certified public accountant with experience in public administration, and 1 officer of a labor organization.
That leaves one other person just at random.
This is moved by Joe. Who's
Second.
Second by Arlen.
Chairman,
Mr. Shy.
I think we ought to eliminate the reference to League of Women Voters, not single out any voter
Okay.
group, but leave it
1
wide
officer of a
open.
nonpartisan voters organization.
My other comment is certified public accountant Is he as experienced as a personnel administrator with experience in public
How about just
administration?
one person with experience in public administration?
Okay.
One person experienced in
Yeah.
personnel
That's probably
administration.
better, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And personnel administration?
That's
Yeah,
what
personnel
Now,
administration.
look, so we're not, you want to cross further. You're saying one certified public accountant, leaving out certified public
Leaving out,
accountant.
leaving out.
One,
Could you read that?
one person with experience in public administration, right?
But you're not saying one person above. You're saying one business executive.
One
One officer of a nonpartisan
Partisan
voter
voter group.
organization.
Yeah.
One business, person.
I'd like to say personnel administration.
All right, wait a minute, I got something for that.
Because they know
One
wage
person
tables and all that business.
with experience in public administration, one officer of a labor organization, and one person experienced in personnel administration.
Well,
That gives you all five. There's no,
where you're gonna have one experience in public administration and one experienced in personnel
Which
administration?
might be the
That's
same.
kind of, incestuous or something.
Why don't you just leave one open, Frank?
I like that. Just the one consumer would be consumer group.
Okay.
That's it.
Can you get that public
One lay
administration
and
in?
one lay member.
Okay, what about putting that public administrator needing to be in relation to personnel?
All right.
Public personnel administration?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Public
Yeah.
personnel administration.
yeah, let's do it that way.
Okay.
What about, says,
With
Yes,
ex-
build in like-
May we have the wording, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Okay.
No, read
The
it now.
commission shall be composed of at least one business executive, one officer of a nonpartisan voters organization, one person with experience in public personnel administration, and one officer of a labor organization. Question?
And one lay member?
No.
That's all right.
That's
Just leave it
it.
open and then.
I'm a little concerned about the word officer. If that is going to be a confining constraint, for example, someone could be appointed as an officer of
And then
And
would
not
not
be
be
later.
would
later.
not be later.
That's a good
One
point.
member.
Would you say a representative?
Might be better because someone might be league officer and then someone might tack
Does
on
raise the question as to.
Yeah, but then they may not be league officer all the time either.
Right.
They may not be a league officer either.
Let's call it a representative.
What?
A
It
representative.
should be a representative.
Of a nonpartisan vote.
Does that suggest that they make the selection?
Oh, one member.
one member.
One member.
Well, I
It may not
really
be an
think it's
officer all
been
the
very
time,
clearly
though.
stated that the mayor appoints these guys,
Yeah.
and,
So you think representative is okay?
yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah, representative.
Oh, you're wearing out my razor.
And one representative of a labor
Not to
organization.
say it'll-
Is that right?
Okay, read on.
Yeah, I think
Question,
if it doesn't work, then no one's.
Read on.
let's call the question.
Okay, I move for approval of 508 as read and amended.
And Arliss seconded it. Question's been called.
Are we using representative in both cases?
Yes.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So ordered.
A representative.
Paragraph B, 508B, Mr. Chairman.
That was 508A.
Yeah, I move that we approve 508B as follows. No member of the commission shall be employed by the municipality during the term for which he is appointed, comma, nor shall he hold elective municipal office during his term or within 1 year thereafter.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Question.
Questions called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So ordered.
Okay.
C.
Okay. I'll ask Mr. Garner to read his.
Well, I'm trying to think. First, I think we could strike the decisions of, just, if you want to just say, the commission
Okay.
shall establish the compensation, including salaries, benefits, and allowances of any of the elected officials. Now, do we have, all right, a decision of the commission takes effect at the beginning of the next fiscal year of the municipality.
Takes effect.
And then we have
the beginning of the next fiscal year of the municipality.
Then we have our new sentence that a decision by the commission is subject to initiative referendum.
Decision by the commission, subject to the initiative and referendum in the same manner
As an ordinance.
as an ordinance.
We strike
Now, do you include or strike the word, the reference to its submission to the clerk?
No,
by
strike
the
that.
Yes, what we read is how it would be.
What you see is what you get.
See what you get, huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
we see more than we get.
Okay, I move that paragraph C reads, the commission shall establish the compensation, including salaries, benefits, and allowances, if any, of elected officials, period. A decision of the commission takes effect at the beginning of the next fiscal year of the municipality, period. A decision by the commission is subject to initiative and referendum in the same manner as an ordinance, period.
second.
Question. Question called. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So ordered. C is adopted as D.
I don't think there are any changes here except the addition of a sentence.
The commission shall render
The commission shall render its decision with respect to salaries for the next fiscal year not later than 30 days before the end of the fiscal year of the municipality.
We had of the municipality after that
the
first
next
fiscal year too.
and before the end of the current fiscal.
Well, let's see. Do we need to say current?
Fiscal year.
It renders its decision with respect to the next fiscal year. I don't think we can be talking about any other.
Okay, would it be the next fiscal year of the municipality?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Well, except that we're talking about salaries for the fiscal year of the school board too, right?
The
Well,
next,
that has to
if
be
you say
established.
next
Well-
fiscal years, not more than 30, you're saying the decision will be rendered and submitted to the municipality 30 days before the end of the fiscal year of the municipality, but for the next fiscal years.
Yes.
No, we're
well,
not separating them out so that they're done differently for the school
wording.
board.
As I understand it, Mary, we're requiring that the decision be made 30 days before the end of the fiscal year of the municipality.
That's right.
Okay,
That's
so-
right.
But the salaries are with respect to two different fiscal
Right.
years, the school boards and the municipalities.
I
But we
think-
don't
Why
want
don't
to
you have the school boards start at the beginning of January
Well,
too,
that's,
rather than postponing theirs until July? Why don't you let them get their pay as quick as they make the decision too?
I thought that,
You've changed that now to make it only have effect at the beginning of each fiscal year, and I think it should have had effect at the beginning of the municipality.
Renders
No, I haven't
decision.
changed it.
Well, I haven't changed it, but I think that's the effect of it, as a matter of fact.
Takes effect
In other words, the decision would be rendered December 1 as to what the school board salaries are going to be, but those salaries would not take effect until, under this wording, the beginning of the next fiscal year of the school board, which would be
Why
following.
not do it all the municipality and let both of them
Alright.
take effect January 1?
Fine.
As it says here, it takes effect at the beginning, in C, which we adopted, takes effect at the beginning of the fiscal year of the municipality.
Okay,
Decision of the
okay.
commission. So then when you get down here, to render
Alright.
a decision,
Okay, would you read that again?
Is that too? Well, I'm not sure what we've done. Why don't you? Do we need to change anything in order to make that clear?
Yes, that last sentence was wrong.
All right, what do you suggest
I
then?
think it'd have to be the next
Read it to
fiscal
me
year.
again, and I'll tell
The
you what's wrong.
commission shall render its decision with respect to salaries. Maybe we just say with respect to salaries.
Yeah.
Not later than 30 days before the end of the fiscal year of the municipality. And then the sentence up here in C would come into effect and say that the decision of the commission takes effect at the beginning of
Yeah.
the next fiscal year of the
I think that
municipality.
should do
Now,
it.
that does it. So long as you don't add more that switches
Right.
Okay, then I move for approval of paragraph D as printed with the addition, the commission shall render its decision with respect to salaries not later than 30 days before the end of the fiscal year of the municipality.
Second.
So, been moved and seconded, all those,
Really interesting.
any further discussion? Question? All those in
I'm
favor?
gonna run through this after I'm gonna get more dough. No kidding.
Those opposed? So,
Okay, now let's see if our transition works here.
No,
Okay, this
really.
is 1915, not 1015.
Yeah. The mayor appoints these guys within 30 days after the ratification of the charter. In 90 days, it makes its initial decision. Now, what's the timing going to be there? That's
Well, that puts you into 4 months.
yeah. Well,
That's all right. So then that-
okay, and until the initial decision, if the elected official receives the compensation, he would have
the
been
decision
entitled
takes
to-
effect.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not even sure you need to add anything more to that. Or,
Well, we had something on page.
well, yeah, but in other words, that's you had a qualification to the thing about
The
reducing.
only thing I'm concerned about is that the initial decision should be one in which arguably the commission finds that the mayor's salary is too high.
That's right.
And we haven't allowed for that.
You should.
So,
Well, that's true, but we certainly haven't prohibited it either.
well, we have said that the salary of the mayor will not be reduced during his term without consent.
Without its
Salary of
consent.
the mayor
Okay,
now $21,000.
great,
Yes,
all
it
right.
is, but they
Oh, wait a minute.
raised it to 35.
What we ought to say then here is notwithstanding section 501E.
It's hard enough.
Right.
I don't know.
they're working on 1915, showing us 1015,
The initial decision.
first part.
Yeah.
Mayor shall appoint subject to confirmation of the
May
assembly.
adjust the salary of the mayor.
90 days.
Well, it really is, except
Well,
it's
Yeah, the commission may establish the initial salary of the mayor without regard to
very important job.
the provisions of
That's better.
You know, very high qualified.
Okay, what's the
man.
wording?
Got a couple of them.
We got it.
Okay, let's go.
Wait a minute.
I'm just hoping to get the commissioners prestige.
James, you asked me if I weren't here
I
to
know
keep
it.
you on the damn railroad, even though you get, feel like getting disrespected.
Oh,
The initial decision
What do you keep telling me I am?
of the
Let's go, let's go. We're getting
Let them get their wording out.
Okay.
I just think,
See, the rest of us are...
while they're doing that, that we ought to think about adding to section 602 on education, the sentence that says, compensation of school board members shall be
Yeah,
fixed
to
by
the
the commission on
prohibition,
salaries and emoluments.
to the limitations
What
of
section?
section 501.
602.
Okay, then they'll
Okay,
say-
I got it. We got it.
Yeah, let's wait. Hey, let's go.
Bye, George.
All right, section, I'll read both paragraphs here.
All right.
Come on, come on.
Insert a new section 19.15 and renumber accordingly. Section 19.15 would be as you see it before you.
Period.
Okay, period. Paragraph B would read as follows. Until the initial decision of the commission takes effect under this charter, an elected official shall receive the compensation to which he would have been entitled as an elected official of the Greater Anchorage Area Borough during the same period, holding the most nearly comparable public office, if the new government had not been formed, period.
Has it?
Now, there's an addition, which I'll read. The
As, was that as if?
hold it.
No.
No.
You got this.
Okay. The additional material would read, the commission may, the initial decision of the commission,
Wait a minute. The initial?
decision of the commission may establish the salary of the mayor without regard to the limitations of Section 5.01E. That means that if they see fit, they can, in that case, adjust the mayor's salary down the first time.
Is there a salary set when they're actually elected?
Well, it carries a
Now,
under
let me,
under,
before we go further, I'd like to throw in a more here. If you're going to possibly lower the mayor's salary, he was hired, that was the salary, he was elected, that was the salary which he went into. Then let's consider whether we should say that will take, that salary or will take effect subsequent to the next regular election.
I don't think
I'm not really too worried about it. I mean, he ought to be,
You
the
can
appointed
appoint
people ought to protect himself to that degree. I think. Drastic.
I don't
Did
think
you move for approval?
Yeah, I so moved.
Second.
Question. Can I have it read quickly?
The additional language?
Just that whole B.
Until the initial decision of the commission takes effect under this charter, an elected official shall receive the compensation to which he would have been entitled as an elected official of the greater Anchorage area borough during the same period, holding the most nearly comparable public office, if the new government had not been formed. The initial decision of the commission may establish the salary of the mayor without regard to the limitations of Section 501E.
All right, now, Jane?
Yeah, I think that the first sentence B is really long. What about dropping the during the same period part? What is the significance of that?
Dropping
Well,
it.
because there's been well, Mary might explain that. Maybe we don't need that language, but I understood that certain adjustments in pay would be effective in the borough
as of the beginning of this next term.
at the beginning of the next term, you see.
So are you saying they would get the money
They
from the
would
new
get that,
term?
they would get the
or-
benefit of that ordinance, yes.
Now,
Wouldn't that
Have you-
automatically happen?
No,
have you decided to go back in the charter or anywhere in the transition say that the folks that had to do with the setting of these salaries or?
Yes, may I suggest, Mr. Chairman, on wording on that point?
Yes,
Are you
please.
hears it? We talked about at one point the question of whether charter commission members would fall under the prohibition of 1704, and we also have the question of a current assemblyman who participated in the increase of the mayor's salary being prohibited from running for mayor by the present language. Language that would correct or deal with those situations, I think, would be the following. In 1704B, which is that general prohibition section, after the word member in line 23, we could add the words elected under this charter. That would make the prohibition would apply only to action by the initial assembly elected under this charter and not to action by current assemblymen.
1704B.
Yes, sir. Line 23 after the word member.
Could for 1 year after he leaves office, an assemblyman or school board member.
Elected under this charter.
What line is that? I'm sorry.
3.
23.
23.
Do I have the
Well,
section?
you
Maybe I've got
have,
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I've got it.
it's line 4 on page 24 on the last one we got.
Okay, and what would that be again now?
For 1 year after he leaves office, an assemblyman or school board member elected under this charter may hold no compensated municipal office or employment.
Which was created, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the next change would essentially track what the Alaska Constitution says about the legislature. And this is basically a quote. It says, this section, this prohibition, does not, it would be at the end of the same paragraph B. This section does not apply to employment by or election to a charter commission in lieu of constitutional.
Okay, say that again. This section
This
does not
section
apply
does not apply to employment by or election to a charter commission.
Mr. Chairman, Frank, I'm going to have to go. No way. I have to leave.
Okay, could we vote on the motion I made on,
All right.
on 1915?
I'm just-
The motion made by Joe and seconded by Arliss was to adopt it with the changes that have been read to you. I have a little question in my mind about that Greater Angry Dairy Board during the same period. I've thought something about government whose salary ordinance survives according to section 1906. So it doesn't matter to me that much. I just was, rather than use Greater Angry Dairy Borough in the charter,
If you're gonna,
if we could say something, the government whose salary ordinance for the like position continues in effect in accordance with section 1906 of this charter. And that section 1906 says that the mayor shall designate which charter, which ordinance survives.
Then aren't we defeating the whole purpose of this thing?
I would prefer
no,
that.
we aren't. No, we aren't. We're just keeping from saying the borough or the city in either one of these.
Right, I would prefer that.
Good.
I
What's
think
that
it's a
wording?
good change.
I second that.
After elected official of the government whose salary ordinance for like position continues in effect in accordance with section 1906 of this charter.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Rejected.
The ordinance, would that cover that, if they elected to take the borough ordinance,
We
could they
don't
elect?
have an ordinance covering elected officials as such.
No, wait a
We
minute.
only approve of it in the budget.
Assuming that you did, would the ordinance, would the ordinance carry over that is from the second
I
class
see.
borough, which is not effective until after the charter takes effect?
But that was in the budget.
Is he carrying over a $21,000 salary or 40?
Well, I think what Frank's referring to is that provision that says in the transition provision where you have a conflict,
Right.
the mayor selects.
But here you have an ordinance that is never effective. Never.
Yeah.
And we've got another problem too, because those are only approved of in the budget. They are on a separate ordinance.
But that's an ordinance.
Before our list goes, do you approve in concept though of what's here?
Oh, yeah, right. I
that's because
feel
that's-
like though with Joe, I think we need to tie that into a specific,
I'm afraid you do, because according to the ordinances, because we have to accept both budgets, and I suspect the cities may be incorporated in the budget ordinance.
the only thing I don't know, do you know if the terms of the city council are less than the borough?
I understand the more, but I don't know how much.
We're only talking about 90 days. I wonder if there's any harm in just saying that the elected official shall receive the higher compensation which would have been applicable
I really
for the
think
period.
that might be
That's fine.
a good way to go.
Yeah.
That would be all right, then you don't have to mention a government.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So,
Moving the whole
Wait,
concept.
wait. I have one more point. There's no place in this thing that we mention the school board, nor comparable to assembly and mayor. Within their section, do we say talk about compensation?
No.
So I think that we should just add
You have
the
to talk
sentence
to me there.
to 602, which is in education. Says compensation of school board members shall be fixed by the commission on salaries and emoluments.
602.
I second it, if that's a motion, Jane.
Yep.
I didn't get that.
All right.
All right. We don't, we're consistent. We say the mayor, the assemblies, their salaries are set this way, and I think we ought to be consistent. We say the school, tell the school board that too.
You figure in qualification and term or under, yeah.
Your work, Joe. I think this is a good selling point, folks.
Is there,
I heard it last night.
is there a that was moved by Jane and seconded by who?
Mary. Mary.
Mary. Our question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So ordered.
On the third bottle of wine last night, I told Tobin that not only would he see a fresh and exciting charter, but we dropped a little bomb in there that he would really like.
You want me to call him as soon as you
This
approve
one.
his final thing?
Yeah.
Now, are there any other questions regarding what we've done?
There may be.
But if there is, don't call me, will you?
Page one.
Page one.
What time are you leaving, Rick?
Not really.
3:10.
Frank, who's gonna,
Lisa wants to move to throw page one out as
No.
unnecessary.
My brother said that we should call this place Susitna
Are
and
you
not
gonna-
Angry.
Are you gonna go watch the ball game? Is that where you going, Fairbanks?
Well, yeah, I've got to.
So I move that we amend.
Can I ask, Mr. Chairman?
you're out of order.
At 3:45
We're out of order.
today?
I'm not there.
They're discussing baseball, you're out.
I
I'll
know.
get to the ballpark about 2:30 and I'll watch the game.
Jane, we want you to talk with us.
Can I please have acceptance of my report on public information so we can get the money from the borough on Monday before we submit the charter to them on Monday night?
I read it and I so moved.
I second.
I carry it around in my pocket.
I haven't read it either.
Question, all those in favor, aye.
Those opposed? Side.
Did you move and second?
Move seconded and called the question.
I call for the question.
Well,
Frank agreed.
I lost a chair suddenly.
Oh, well.
the tape will never reflect who's right and what.
Well,
See you tomorrow.
if moved, seconded.
Thanks, Joe.
Carried.
The only
Adoption
question,
of the report of the Information Committee.
if you're leaving, Rick, who's gonna read this thing before it's presented tomorrow?
Good question.
Who's gonna read it out? And then
Frank Reed and Joe Josephson.
I'll read it on the plane and phone back if I have a hassle, if you want me to.
Yes.
Do that.
Yeah, okay.
You're so
Would be great.
You're so recommended to do.
In fact, that's probably
We'll pay for the call.
maximum peace and quiet one can get is up there on the plane.
I have found this more than once.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what,
Get a window seat.
you look the stewardess right square in the eye as you get aboard and say,
I get somebody sitting there, I have somebody sitting next to
You
me.
give me a seat all by myself.
No booze. No matter how much I bang up.
Where are you flying to?
Angry.
What are you going to do?
That's a school board meeting of the state operated schools.
Have fun down there.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah.
That's a nice place. It's pretty weather.
You know all about that, don't you? Can I catch fish? I'll take my bikini.
Yeah.
No doubt but what you can. It's a beautiful
And
weather.
then, you know, the local newspaper will take a picture of you coming off the plane with your fishing rod, put it right on the page.
Rushing through the King's Salmon.
Council comes to Angoon to fish.
Well, Andrew's had some fine fishing. That's a real good silver fish.
That's right. Attorney seeks cure for brain fever in remote village.
All right.
What else do we have,
There are
Mr.
no
Chairman?
other,
Go to Frank Seymour's.
are there any other commissioner comments other than the one that was already made?
We've had
You
it.
mean we can't change the
Oh,
name
now
of
it's about
Susitna?
later. Did you act on those
can't change
changes
the name
in
to
the
Susitna?
prohibition section?
Mr. Chairman.
Change the name of the municipality to
Mr.
Susitna?
Chairman, let's act on those changes back in the prohibition
In
section.
1704, those changes we talked about.
Pete, we,
Okay.
the paper we again.
What did we talk about? 1704.
Section B.
Under this charter, Frank.
Add the words elected under this charter. And that in 1704B, after the word member, add the words elected under this charter.
You a little short and help on something?
And at the end of that,
6 people.
add the words, at the end of B, add the words, this section does not apply to appointment by or election to a charter
In the
commission.
last 15 days of
Has been moved by
What's wrong at the Westwood?
Parsons and seconded by Chai. All those in favor?
Aye.
All ordered.
What's wrong at the Westwood?
You did so good, huh?
Guess you fixed them.
Couple of fire engines.
Oh, I
I was looking a lot, way reaching up in a window, I
When this one,
What was that
Yeah.
motion to approve that change?
Approve the change in 1704.
did you get the?
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, thank you for calling, Frank.
Not
We can do it.
this meeting is adjourned.
Well,
No, next meeting will be Thursday night.
You're kidding.
There's a press conference Tuesday morning. Can I come to my work clothes?
Jane, call us now when you want the schedule on what appear and how and broadcast.
Oh, we're gonna talk about promoting.
We are.
Just call and tell me when and I'll go.
We do. We have to meet on Thursday, because by that time we should know
you should
exactly.
have your work done by then.
Oh, yeah, right. All I gotta do.
You don't have any Bob Johnson.
So the next meeting Thursday night, everybody here. Next regular. And any of you come in tomorrow morning and read through this thing.
My mother said she'd read through
Yeah, I
it
think I know who you mean though.
to catch, my mom said she'd read through it to catch any like
Yeah, you might ought to
errors,
have a tentative meeting Monday.
structure, words and stuff.
Well, that's great.
That's a
I
good
don't
reason
know
for
that I-
a person to do it.
Yeah, 'cause I thought last night about looking at it and I thought, I looked at it and I go,
I started to type every other word was misspelled.
I figured that.
Now, where all does this have to go, Mary? Do you know if it goes to the borough?
It goes to the borough, it has to go to Glen Alps, and it has to go to Girdwood. And I haven't done my homework for you. I'll go call right now and see if I can tell you where to get those books.
Is Glen Elk, Al Lathan?
City of Anchorage.
And
Mary? Is Glen Elk Al Lathan?
Al Latham is the, yeah, but he's supposed to go to the clerk, and I don't know who the clerk is. He's mayor.
Borough is Mary Coffey. And that's
did you make those good?
Jean Michoud.
Did you make those? Those are good.
And say, how about a vote to change the name of Anchorage to
All those in favor say aye.
Those opposed? Here you go. Of course, please.
People who print what?
The atlases and stuff like that.
That's confusing. They did that in Portland, they changed the name of the city. They've unified the city and the county, and they put in there, changed the name to whatever the, yeah. To what? To what? Multnomah, which is the name of the county. Is that right? So now Portland is Multnomah?
It'll never happen.
That'll be one thing.
Oh, I'll tell you, I think you guys are gonna get a lot of attention
Thank
for
you.
this.
Thank you all for coming.
I think that's really gonna start.
I'll send you my bill.
It's going to be.
Hey, I'll give you a call.
Happy trip.
Some evening or.
Have a good trip.
Have a good
I'm proud
I'm
of
gonna come back here.
How are you going to?
In fact, we're gonna be knocking.
How are you going to read this through? You don't have.
I'm gonna come back here in an hour. I just have to meet my wife and I'll be right back.
Bye-bye. Bye.
An hour, you give it an hour.
Right. Anyway, I'm proud of your action.
Thank you. I thank all the charter commissioners for being here Sunday morning at 11 o'clock. Having
And tag some, hadn't I? Yeah, that's what we do. On state ground or?
kind of sounded.
Well, somewhere on state ground.
Your voice is very soothing to wake up to. I it's kind of soft and high and
Lady is, looking at the
Orienting.
getting
Orienting.
Yeah.
And hell, you do it in the national government, you go from clear to January 20th or something like that. With the president of the whole goddamn the whole United States.
Well, even at the state level, you wait until,
January 19th, December 9th.
you wait a month.
Well, I'm perfectly willing.
Okay, how
I'm
many,
not at all sure, but the new guys need a hiatus of a weekend.
is there anyone who objects to adhering to the October 6th day?
Yeah, I want 7.
None. Anybody who objects to the week of October 6th?
Only with the condition that when you check it out, you have to worry, check it out with Sheila and
Oh, well, of course.
We'll make that hearing.
But I mean, there's nobody now wanting to advance.
Don't want to upset them.
Okay, now, is
That would
it,
be with respect to the assembly.
what is going to be the status of the old governments between the time of the election and the time of the swearing in?
They're fully occupied.
That's the question. They continue to operate right up until the time that the new government is certified on October the 6th,
Somebody's mind in the story.
or sworn in.
The water department.
Now, what about that? If you say that I'm confused. If the charter is effective immediately on certification that's approved, and the old governments continue to operate, what have we got there?
Well, you have to say, you have to limit the way in which they can operate during that period. I think you do it by saying that they are in office for the purpose of executing the provisions of this charter for that period. Something of that
In other
sort.
words, they have to adhere to the charter.
Well,
Well, wouldn't it be just as well, or could you say that they are, they continue under existing law until the new body, new officials take over?
Give Lisa a chance.
Lisa, I'm sorry.
Can't we say that the charter would be effective on certification of mayoral election, and then that the new assembly, then the old assembly would operate up until the 6th, and then the new assembly would take over after that?
I wonder about executing provisions for runoff and so forth in the charter if the charter isn't effective until...
Well, you could say that the provisions of the charter relating to elections are immediately effective. Elections and
See, that's the kind of thing, that's the kind of analysis you have to do, yeah.
other provisions of the charter become effective on upon the swearing in of the officers. Could you do that?
Yeah, that you can pick any portion of the charter and assign it a particular effective date, I think, depending on what you need. But you have to be careful about it, you know.
I mean, if we don't make the whole charter effective until the certification of the election, then the present law with respect to runoff would apply and all the assembly would have to go through runoff.
No, I
Unless
just
we
said,
provided otherwise.
no, I'm just saying to provide otherwise. That all references in the charter to elections, election procedure, become effective
I'm
immediately.
agreeing with you.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm not arguing with you.
Oh. Well, Saturday morning, apparently.
In state and national level, they certify, like within 30 days, but then the people don't take over until a couple months afterwards usually. And they don't assume those duties or responsibilities for a few months.
But they still got the same laws in those 3 months that they've had before.
It's even worse in New Hampshire.
Everything's worse than
Okay, can we work with something like that?
Yeah, let's just get started on it, and you've given me enough to come back with something, and we'll look at it again.
Okay, but I think we're talking about maybe, the term is bifurcating.
Yes.
Election procedures, effectiveness for organizational purposes, and other charter provisions. And then subject to that, the former governments continue to operate.
You're going to say that the rest of the charter does not become effective until October 6th.
Yeah. Now, what evils are we opening up something in the way of lame duck decision-making by the old council or assembly? Isn't that a possibility? Let me ask the committee, what harm, assume the worst, a disgruntled council or assembly going out of office, and I don't posit this as a probability, but what possible things could be done to mess up the transition by that body?
Well, okay, let's say Mary Coney runs for mayor.
Okay.
Is elected.
It's going to be a bad time, she says.
She's also on the assembly. Would that create any problem? No.
Because she wouldn't be certified.
It's not a
It would
dual
be
office.
certified.
They could change their fiscal years
Say an assembly,
real quick.
If they put in any ordinances, they would be repealable easily enough. Do you see anything?
Yeah, I think that's the one aspect of it to look at. And another aspect is whether there's anything in the charter that needs to be operative prior to October 6th in order to keep the whole machinery.
That's right. Pardon?
Well, I was saying that's the one aspect of the problem.
Right.
Seems okay. And then I think you need to think of whether there's anything besides the election provisions in the charter that need to be effective immediately in order for the process to work.
Okay, well, Rick says he has enough guidance. I'm dubious.
Well,
Okay.
I recognize reality, you know.
On the charter election, anytime the charter is on the ballot, can bonds be put on the ballot at the same time by the city or the borough?
They could.
And so they could have a bond put on there and squeeze that through, and then,
At the time of the charter,
yeah,
well, they'd have to have that done
they could do that themselves.
very quickly.
No, they'd have to file for that, same time we do the charter next week, wouldn't they?
Jesse said that their feeling, the borough feeling was that they would not put any bonds on the ballot.
That would wait for the
That they would
general
wait.
election if it fails, right?
Right.
Or hold a special election.
But they could do something like that.
Well, they,
We
Yeah,
don't,
but
con-
you have to have good alternate provision.
and
You know, it isn't something you can do now. We're talking about that interim time.
I called, yesterday and got, I guess his wife. And, told her I would like, I was in the bank for another 2 hours and then I left.
let's go on then. I think the next topic would be the prior law. Boy, I'll tell you, Rick, if we could make the transition thing more readable.
Yeah, that's the point.
It's really,
It is. It's very turgid. People have gotten all kinds of wrong ideas about it.
Well, we don't even know what it says.
Right. This is why I think
Which
this is the
makes it
way.
hard for them to
People think, I've heard people on the street corner saying, well, gee, all employees are going to stay on forever. Where's the savings?
and I've had
All that kind
employees
of
say, we're not staying on.
Well, maybe
So
that
kinda
was
clear.
written well.
No, it would be written well if the taxpayer said they're not staying on and the employee said we are. There you go.
That'd be the well-written.
Okay.
Now, a guy from Eagle River that said he had heard that the only way that the employees were going to be eliminated from the government was through nutrition.
We're going to starve them to death.
Clint came unglued. He was standing right there. He laughed. The guy still doesn't know what he said.
They're likely to laugh.
a friend of mine
How about
who was
contrition?
having trouble gaining weight. She was really very thin, and another friend said, well, it's obvious what she needs is a suppository. And what they meant was a dietary supplement, not a suppository.
Friend or enemy.
Prior law.
Okay.
Yes.
Prior law.
Powder.
I'm sorry to run this committee with a whip.
That is more like a licorice whip.
Okay.
Well, what do we want? We
Prior,
want
yeah.
prior law to
Get your eyes
continue
off that early
until
provision.
changed by the new body.
See that?
Don't we want prior law to continue until changed? And if the prior law of the two governments conflict, the mayor decides which one shall apply until.
See what I said.
Yeah, another, the prior law provision in the old charter, which we're not supposed to do,
Licorice.
is fairly sensible.
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Okay. Not red licorice. I'm thinking of red licorice.
All right, what we're talking about is with the policy of the old charter for the continuation of ordinances, resolutions, regulations, and orders of the old government are preserved until amendment or repeal as prescribed in the manner prescribed in the charter. And then the former charter talked of the mayor identifying conflict between ordinances and designating in writing which ordinance will govern, communicating that to the assembly immediately, and the assembly having a procedure to approve or disapprove it, approving it by inaction or disapproving it affirmatively.
As a concept, I like it. The way it happens to be worded is still.
You see problems with the way it's worded? I mean, excuse me, with the concept?
Not particularly, no. I think it makes some sense. And of course, we're required by Title 29 to have a complete revision within 2 years of all ordinances and so forth.
Did Juno handle that in a wise way, did you think?
I'm not sure how they handled it, to tell you the truth.
Okay, anything else on prior law? What about the commissions and boards? That would also include community councils that exist and are recognized.
And
So 5B.
community schools, too.
Yeah.
How about 15 or 14?
I suppose that in all these, the safest thing, generally speaking, to start with, is to say everything survives until it's specifically changed.
Because if you get rid of them,
That's what we need to say in so many words.
Well, not say it just like that.
Well, that's the kind of thing we'll say, if that's the consensus.
Sure.
Each to have effect in their area of
Concern.
concern.
Of,
For instance, if there are two Parks and Recreation boards, they will each be concerned with the Parks and Recreation functions that they were concerned with previously until changed by the new body.
I was just wondering if you get into, we're going to have to think through, and I don't think we have, what functions immediately come together, and see if there are any conflicts.
Well, I don't think
I
we
don't
have
think
to
they
do that.
immediately go together. I think that they have to come in and
part of
go
the,
side by side.
yeah,
And
that's
as
part of
it's
the-
working, they have to interlap as they work out the interlapping
Does that
relationship.
become part of the administrative code?
I think so.
Well, that's another thing, we should spell out what this administrative code will include, and that would kind of make it all.
But now, what about the when we say that they continue until changed by ordinance, what about such matters as the Planning and Zoning Commission that now exists and the terms of their members? We haven't spelled out whether those people carry on until the normal expiration of the term,
That's
or whether
right.
they are all subject to reappointment or to new appointments by the mayor.
I don't think that's necessary.
Huh?
I don't think that's necessary. I think
It's
that,
not necessary to spell out? Or?
I think that the sort of thing that you want to say is that all the boards and commissions and so forth will continue on under the rules under which they were set up until integrated by the
You don't
new
think
government.
1605B does that until all the
Existing departments, boards, and commissions will continue as previously until reorganized by the assembly.
and it would seem logical that they would operate under the same rules and procedures.
By the assembly, wait a minute.
I'm only saying it better be explicit that if you want them to carry over, that they do. Otherwise, you may have the mayor come in who will send up a whole new list of names to.
You could do that, couldn't you?
Well, it depends on how we word it.
So
But we said the laws are going to continue,
Well, the laws.
and these are all these boards are organized under some sort of an ordinance. And
But
the
we-
rules whereby they're changed are under those ordinances.
But you see, we've also said that the mayor appoints them.
Yeah, so, don't these people all serve at the pleasure of the mayor anyway?
Do you
boards
No,
and commissions?
there are specific terms in the,
Well, I know
I
at
don't
the
know.
state level you have both terms and serving at the pleasure of the
no,
governor. and that's
this is not
different.
true.
Okay.
They have
I
specified
served
terms.
until
Well, they,
1977.
sure, they have, no, they have specified terms, but I think under state law, you can be done away with.
Well, that's my question. I mean, I have a 3-year term on my little commission, but he can get rid of me anytime he wants to.
Is that true under the local government?
I don't believe so.
Well, I think it is under state law.
Well, I don't know about state law, but I think that's the way, my only experience is with the electrical commission, and I think I serve at the mayor's pleasure. Even though I have a 3-year term, as long as his pleasure continues, you know.
I've never seen it change.
Well, we could provide that those boards and commissions which presently have an area-wide function, their term shall not be interrupted, whereas those which would involve consolidation with another board, the terms may continue at the discretion of the assembly. I mean, that's one way of doing it, or we can just say that they all survive and are changed by the assembly or the mayor and leave it.
Oh, we could do that.
up to-
There's your question.
I don't.
Well stated.
My question is, do I want to be wiped out by the new term?
All right, there seems to be, there seems to be a consensus, at least as to the area-wide boards or commissions, that that the terms, whatever security that the members have in terms of terms would not be affected. Then you have the problem of those boards and commissions that are appointed by the mayor of the city or the mayor of the borough, and which will deal with functions that will be unified. At some point, the board will be commingled, or one board will be made out of
But
two.
isn't it going to take an organizational change
And doesn't that come
in
under?
ordinances, and wouldn't that be an appropriate time to
So that
do
you feel,
Let's change
you feel
bylaws.
we can just not treat that except generally by.
What about the utility board and commission? That would then become an area-wide.
Doesn't that come under the administrative code that has to be acted on by a certain date? If it hasn't been previously?
I think
Well,
we're
that's an
confusing two things here. I think we're confusing the continuation of the board itself and the continuation of the members of the board.
But
No, we're not.
the duties.
We've agreed that we'll continue the institution until.
By ordinance, right?
But take the utility board. If the city has a telephone utility board made up of city residents, and now the telephone utility board becomes area-wide, and the assets and liabilities are spread area-wide, why should there be an immediate opportunity to put people on from outside the city? Well, or is the answer, do we give them the opportunity because the mayor in his proposals to the assembly can provide for that? Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, we don't necessarily need to do it by operation of the charter.
Charter.
See, another thing is, you don't want to say by inference that the appointment to board and commissions shall be done by area.
Not fair.
Because, hell, you might have 5 guys that are perfect for public
All
utility
live in the
commission
same
living
block.
on a roll.
All in the same room.
I'll live right around Frank Reed.
Yeah, every one of them. Rick, George, Jack,
Frank,
Frank, and
what a group.
Okay, are you adequately guided here now, or not?
Well, I see
don't
this
wanna
as a
belabor
several
this.
stage process, Joe. It seems to me now we chip away and get some kind of broad outline, I come back and then you refine it and so forth to get to.
Okay, so what about the Chugiak Board of Supervisors? That would be the same, you want to provide that they will run again and continue to serve?
Yeah,
until-
That's right.
Okay. Lisa?
In the charter, can we provide for service areas and outline the service areas? So like we couldn't say that, okay, Indian Earthwood, that's a service area all in itself. And Eagle River, Chubiak, that's a complete service area all in itself and not attached to this bowl area.
We have no way of, really, I think it would be improper. There would be some services that they would want. I think you'd cause more trouble to do that than not to. They may want a very small road district, but they may want a large fire district, for instance. And I just don't think it would be practical.
What you're getting to, Lisa, is that, so if it disappeared from, it would be,
Well, because
The question that came up out there in relation to this, Frank, was the idea that they were so small that if there were other area-wide powers assumed, that they really didn't want to assume that they would be swallowed up in the area-wide vote. And it might really be impractical for them to be served. And there is considerable truth in this.
because of the detachment, between
well, that,
those areas.
That's the unfortunate fact
What
democracy.
the only thing that I can see that might give them any protection from this fear is if we made a small statement in there that for any area-wide assumption of power, that it would have to pass in that area also to include them in. And I don't know whether that
Perhaps
would
a
be
dual
desirable.
majority again, and that,
I don't think that would be desirable.
would be desirable.
Okay, with reference to the Chudiak Board of Supervisors, Rick, then you'll provide for continuing them.
But we're
Transitional
providing in just continuing them, that doesn't bar the new
The
government.
transitional. The transitional.
Do we have to speak to them separately, or can they be just sort of lumped in with every other organization that we're continuing?
Well, are they unique, or are they,
We've talked about all existing special assessment districts, service area, boards of supervisors for service areas, et cetera, already shall continue to function. And I wonder if we can use that broad term to cover somehow all of those. That's better.
okay,
The only place we need to think about that Board of Supervisors is in the actual election, making sure they're listed on the election.
well,
Because we've said that those will continue.
we don't have the authority, though, to require that they, I mean, that's an assembly duty. In other words, I think that it'd be your function as an assemblyman to make sure that the attorneys put that proposition on September 9th. Right?
Now, would that be appropriate?
Or would they,
Or would you set a special election?
The borough
Against
talks,
the wall. Against the wall.
Would the new body set a special election? I think they'd be the only ones that would have a problem, wouldn't they?
well, we have a tactical question as to whether we want them on the same ballot or not. In the one sense, putting them on will bring a larger turnout up there. On the other hand, it dramatizes that the charter doesn't affect that.
I think the fact that it dramatizes the charter doesn't affect that relationship is advantageous.
Well, and the borough, would there be another election on bonds for sure?
There's bound to be an election on bonds sometime this fall. I think both city and borough, but
And you've done more of an injustice to do it this way, or to have a special election. If you force them to run and the charter fails, they of course have to run again.
No.
I don't
If
think
the charter,
they'd have
I mean,
to
their
run again.
situation is unchanged, unaffected by the
Yes,
charter.
okay, but their term.
Then why should we bother them any more than we're bothering the balance of the school board?
We're not bothering them.
They
We're not bothering those that aren't
terminate
up.
anyhow.
They terminate anyway.
On the night?
It would be just that, it would just be part of the whole thing.
For all effect on the 7th
Right.
of
Mary, why don't you call these people and ask them what their druthers would be.
The school board would have to run again if it's a
I
charter.
can't, I can't, Joe.
Because that's a designated seat.
Uh,
You can't.
I can find out in about 3 minutes, probably.
But ours that's a designated, the school board's designated seat, so if the charter fails, then they have to run on the public basis, which might be an argument in favor of Mr. Casey's case, that we didn't have.
Well, Joe, if it wasn't, they'd still have to run, because those seats now go through, we would have no power to change the term of their seats. They're going to have to file concurrently, as I see it, aren't they, for school board?
No, wait a minute. Rick, follow me here. As I understand it, if we said that they run at large without designation of seats, the school board is a continuing body serving on an at-large basis. And we could provide it would be the same people elected on September 9th could serve on the school board if or not the charter passes.
Just as though the assembly had changed the date of the school board election. So,
Well,
Now,
that is different than,
Well, then they're shortening the term of the existing school board
Yeah.
members.
and I wonder if you.
Why are we shortening the term? That they would expire on
It's
October
only the
6th anyway, wouldn't it?
I do think that needs to be checked out, but I envision
But
them
because we-
having to, well, assuming the other way, that they would have to run again.
But because we go to designated seats, we're putting in something that a normal second-class borough cannot do. And therefore, the election of those people is invalid unless there's a home rule government. And that's why they have to run again.
Okay, but no, let's put it the other
are we
way.
sure that a second-class borough can't require designated
Well,
seats?
No, I'm not.
I
I understood that.
probably could.
Well, then the
Because it's
assembly would have to make that a dual
provide for
election.
the manner of election or something of that sort. Anyway,
I'd like to see that checked.
Yeah.
I don't agree with you. If the assembly changed their date of the election and set that as an assembly election, but if it's tied to the charter election, I'm no attorney, but that just doesn't seem appropriate to me, that we could have that election and put those people in office.
as a practical matter, do you think if
I'm
we...
sorry, you use a lot of pronouns, and it's always those people and that, and I don't know what you're saying.
Okay, if, let's assume we elect area-wide basis as opposed to designated seats
For school board.
for the school board. And they are running for the charter positions. It's really our election in that sense. It's not the assembly taking action to change the regular election when they're normally elected and putting it on at the same time that we are holding the charter election.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that it is the assembly action in the sense that, I don't know about the date of the election, and we have to check that, but we are not requiring them all to stand for office.
No, I
We're simply saying that those that normally run in the fall run on September 9th. And we're saying that we incorporate the results of that election. I mean, this is where we could do it.
Can we do this?
We could provide, I think, that the school board members elected at the election of September 9 take their seats if the government passes. The only thing that I think might affect that is a different mode of election. I mean, the difference between the borough ordinance and ours on designation of seats.
To me, it seems there's a legal question. There's more involved. We don't have the authority to change their existing terms or the method of their election. It seems like that the assembly would have
Well,
to take special action.
Okay, there has to be cooperative action. I'm
Yeah.
saying, we could certainly get the assembly to do that, could we not? And adopt in the charter by reference the result of that election. And then,
Well, I think that's the point, but we perhaps we should.
and then we wouldn't have to, if the charter failed, the people elected would serve on the school board and not have to run.
Okay,
But I don't know what the designation of seats.
would bar that.
Yeah.
If we can do it.
Designation of
certainly
seats,
would-
I think,
would help.
would bar it, because you would not have people running.
it would leave it
In the
open to
absence-
challenge.
Okay, and then I think it would as a practical matter, because even if Rick's point is that the Assembly by ordinance under Title 29 could provide for designation of suits, the fact is they haven't done so, and won't until September 9. So if we adhere to that, they would have to stand again.
If we change our designated seats to just at large, I think a good case could be made that the Assembly, by separate action, could decree that the school board positions will come up for election on September 9th.
Kind of gets into an interesting thing, doesn't it?
Although,
Of not knowing really the structure. You're running for a dual structure in a way, because there are certain changes, and you're running under a different management scheme. And I don't know if that creates a problem.
there's not
You
too
know
much
what you're
difference,
running for.
but there's not too much difference in as far as school board's concerned. In Vid's case, he said it really wouldn't, he wasn't really too concerned about it, about rerunning.
Well, your structure of government, though, is the whole thing in our relationship with the school district, and that may or may not have a block.
You mean the voters might want to vote for Mr. X if it's home rule?
I don't know whether that's...
Well, let's go on to a discussion of utilities. Rick,
That's a key thing.
maybe could you sort of summarize what the parameters set out by Title 29 on this would be? I guess we're really looking.
Okay, Joe.
Are we looking at 1607? Would that be where was
Yeah, that's. I don't think we ought to be looking at it, but that's about the only thing in our transition that covers that subject. Title 29 does not constrain us particularly on the matter of utilities, except insofar as it calls for a fair distribution of assets and liabilities,
I thought there were restraints as far as water and
and
sewer.
except as it requires that debt incurred for water, sewer, and streets remain where it was incurred.
Rick, does that debt incurred, say, general obligation, or does it specific type of debt? In other words, is it only assessment district thing? That's the way I kind of read this, but I'm only reading it third hand.
Yeah, it just says pre-unification bonded indebtedness or other debt for sewer, water, and streets, even if determined to be used for the benefit of the larger area, remains the obligation of the area which incurred it. As to all other debts, those debts remain local debts unless there is a finding that the assets in question were for the benefit of the broader area, in which case the debt can be spread.
Except for...
Now, there's, I think really those, such as they are all the parameters we have in the law. We have lots of others in terms of politics and practice and that sort of thing.
Can I see Title 29?
Sure.
As a matter of clearing up what might be some confusion in the minds of people reading the transition section, what if we put a little qualifying phrase, if we do use something like this 1607 wording that's contained in state law, saying that because the state law requires this.
Look at the draft I gave you yesterday.
Oh! Does it say that?
Oh, yeah. Anyway, no sweat. I think that's a good idea, needless to say.
Did you get that?
No,
And,
yes, as required by 2968 410.
I didn't see that.
Well, we didn't focus on those things. I think the basic question,
After this, take your damn stuff, will you?
again, is just for the Commission's choice as to whether there will be any diversion of profits or tax credit or anything of that sort for a period of time or anything of that sort.
Well,
Great minds.
could I see the great minds language? Great minds from the same.
diverted from your present line of thought.
Guess so.
There is only one supervisor coming up for election in the Chugat service area, and that's Buck Ramsey. And he said if there were a way worked out in the election so that we didn't have to rerun come November, if the charter failed, he would have absolutely no objections to running then. And I had a thought since we last met that there was no reason why we could not make the effect of the designated seats delayed until next year, even if we keep it in the charter for the school board, so that they too would not have to run twice in case the charter fails. And I'm wondering whether you folks have had any thoughts in this line.
Well, I hadn't, but it's not a bad idea.
I rather think that the Assembly would buy that sort of thought if we wanted to present it to them.
Keep the designated seats as a permanent matter, but transitionally use the old system.
That's right, so that in case the charter failed, they would not, those people would not have to run again.
Have you talked to Heather at Point?
Oh, she was pleased with it. Heather Connery. Who's everybody?
I think
Uh,
that she doesn't care that much about it.
I sort of think it would have the advantage of not, of pointing out that it's not that big a change in both quantities. And it might have a advantage for the charter to manage those two particular elected quantities so it did not affect one way or another whether the charter went or didn't go.
Okay, I feel personally that's good business. I think.
If it can, I just want to see how we do it and do it properly. If we can, great, cut down the election.
Oh, it'll be fairly simple, I think, to say that, well, anyway, we can work it out so that they don't have to run for designated seats, which at least makes it more probable that you're still talking about electing the school board people September 9, or are you talking about, okay, it still makes it more probable that that will be the election for school board people.
Yeah.
I doubt it would be challenged by anybody.
I talked to Mr. Ramsey himself, and I said, it looks like we're going to have to put supervisors, any that are coming up, and I'd like to know whether there's 1, 2, or 3 coming up. And he says, I'm the only one that comes up this year. And I said, well, it looks like we need to put them on the September 9th election with the charter. And I said, would it perturb you at all if it were managed in such a manner that that particular portion wouldn't have to be rerun again if the GAB remained? And he said, certainly not. Be very fine. He didn't care whether it was September that he ran or November, but he preferred not to have to run both times.
I think it's advantageous to us then to have him up, because it does show that the charter is
affecting it. Yeah. I think there's an advantage in that, Joe.
Rick, do you think it can
I have occasionally thought when I woke up in the night.
What was the answer, Jerry? Anything can be moved. Oh. Well, the only thing we need to determine though is take separate assembly action to make that happen.
Yes. And I rather think they would go along with that. I don't feel...
Well, I guess what I'm saying is we have to find out what specific assembly action is needed as far as
the commission's desire to go to hell. Mr. Garnett, as a good lawyer, will help us get there.
He might even
I can't take the burden.